Welcome to Town Talk. With me today, Assistant Director of Community Services, Chris Ganella, and we're going to talk playgrounds because you're never too old to play, are you, Chris?
Never.
Never. Welcome to the show. This is your first foray into Channel 18 studio. Give folks a sense of what you've been with the town for a really long time on the Department of Public Works side through our Structures and Grounds division. Your new position with Community Services. Give us an understanding of what that new position is and what you're doing.
Well, it's a new position for me. As you said, I was with the Department of Public Works for 8 years. And not only a new position for me, but a new position for the town. There was not an Assistant Director of Community Services. It's a lot of things and a lot of new things. We do capital improvement projects. We have the golf courses. We have the Hyannis Youth and Community Center, the Recreation Division, the Barnstable Council on Aging. I'm basically trying to cohesively pull all of those divisions within the department together, not just with capital improvement projects, but communication-wise with your team. We're sending out communication for recreation pieces. We have communication for the aging population. And just trying to corral all of those things. Obviously, normal stuff with budget and being Madeline's assistant, whatever else falls my way. But yeah, it goes from beach stickers to playgrounds to fields to buildings to sprinkler projects that we're currently having at the Barnstable Adult Community Center. So it's a different thing every day, which I do enjoy.
Excellent. So let's talk playgrounds. Like I said, you're never too old to play. And Centerville Playground has a history in this town. It's one of our older playgrounds out there. So tell us a little bit about Centerville Playground. How did it get here? I think it was the 80s when it was first built?
Yeah, I believe, don't quote me on the exact dates, but early 80s, because I, age 46 years old, I actually had time spending playing on that playground. I think 1995 was the current location and the current playground that was installed. And that was basically a rally of different community members, civic associations, and they just said, you know what, this other one that was built prior is just dilapidated. We're going to go in here and start building it. And they pretty much did. And back then you could kind of get away with, hey, Sarah, you and I are going to go, let's go take this thing down and we're going to build it. Obviously those things have changed. Tons of great use. I mean, personal stories with my own children. I have 4 children, age 4 and 6, and a couple of 16-year-olds. I actually met my wife on a play date there. It was used for play dates. You get the candy store, you get the kids, you get this, and you feel safe. You're in that lower bowl area. Leisure program. It's just been a staple of a community-oriented playground. And not just the leisure program, but like I said, not being on a school grounds, having everybody do it. And it's centrally located with all the villages. I mean, I can get into the other playgrounds and the other locations, but specifically Centerville, I mean, it's just glaring at you saying, hey, this is a really cool spot.
Barnstable, bar none, of all the towns on Cape Cod have just top-notch recreational facilities, but they do age, and the infrastructure ages with them. So talk a little bit about how Centerville Playground got chosen to get these updates. I mean, it's all great. We want to update everything, but there's a cost to it, right? So what is that process of funding it? How did it all happen that all of us, we're going to get a new playground?
So specifically Centerville.
Right.
So let me back up a little bit. So we had a lot of playgrounds. We had a lot of schools, as you know, that were shuttered and shut down. Yep. And the schools were maintaining playgrounds and maintaining these properties, Marston's Mills, Kentuit Elementary, Waldorf School. It becomes a hazard. And then you have people using it, and there's no one even there, whether it be school staff or DPW staff. So there's a lot of properties, and even currently now, the old Marston's Mills Elementary School, that property's kind of in flux. It was the schools. Now it's kind of under the DPW's umbrella. And we were removing playgrounds, removing buildings, CWMPs involved. There's a lot of things. And you look at Centerville and you go, this site is not going to change. It's a rec building. It's historic Centerville. Right. It's not on a school property. And the school property, it's not a bad thing, but we wanted to try to make it as inclusive as possible, meaning that we can get the play groups. We get the younger kids. I can't go to Barnstable, West Barnstable with my kid at 10 o'clock in the morning and use a playground. there's a lot of passion behind that playground. But you looked at all of the playgrounds, there's only, I believe, 4 other playgrounds that are not on school grounds. Barnstable Hollow, there's one at Katuitt Memorial Park, there's Veterans Park in Centerville.
Okay.
And so those other ones kind of have limitations as far as parking, limitations as far as what is the space, and Centerville is like, it's right there. And we removed the one in Austerville, we removed the one in Katuitt, we removed the one in Marston's Mills. Centerville's kind of right in the middle. I mean, they're right there and it's centrally located, so it's not just Centerville's playground, it's Barnstable's playground. And it just kind of was like zoned in. And the equipment, I mean, we've taken out pieces of equipment. DPW's done an excellent job trying to maintain, keep things safe. It's not in code anymore. It made the most sense.
Right.
CPC-wise, recreation staff, Recreation Commission, Community Preservation, Lindsay Council, DPW, what are we doing? We have to do something, and it just kind of rose to the top.
All right. So we did a municipal matters segment on the Community Preservation Committee and how they manage some of the funding for these projects. So this project did go through that process where there is a Recreation Commission member that sits on the Community Preservation Committee, and the Centerville Playground has been granted funding to be updated. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Mr.
Tenalia, yeah.
Tenalia, yeah. He was the steward with that and on the CPC. But it's one of those things where I think that the public doesn't recognize that we can see these things too. We want your input, and that engagement is critical to us. But we were going through the field study that was in 2017, and the fields kind of tie in with the playground. There's multiple fields on one parcel, and Mark Marinucci, our town architect, had these plans, and I'm like, that's like the best plan I've ever seen. And it had the playground, and it had and we said, we need to resurrect this. So it went through a CIP process for 4 or 5 years. And then we finally have CPC and those funds, and then we have the field study. We talked about doing a playground study, but it's like, how much of these studies do we need to know? We know we have a problem. We know we need it to be fixed. So we have secured funding through CPC for the playground piece. We have secured funding through a capital improvement project for the parking lot piece.
Okay. So some of the new elements for this and the surrounding area. You've got a meeting scheduled for January 31st at 4:30, so kids can come. You're going to have some equipment choices and designs available so people can take a look at this. How does the resident benefit from some of these new upgrades? You talk about safety a lot, and I think that's one of the things that residents are concerned with is is the equipment safe? How does those things happen? You talk about an architect and the design process. How did that all come together that you can offer choices and benefits to the resident?
Well, I mean, in most town projects, the way that it happens, and in this one's particularly, we have a committee. So we try to get, recreation members involved. We try to get members of the Civic Association, Centerville Civic Association involved, abutting neighbors. And a playground specialist and advisor. Okay. Obviously, Mark Marinaccio and his team at the DPW kind of do most of the work behind the scenes in pulling those things together. And you said, we're all never old enough to want to play in the playground piece. It's refreshing, and it's part of the job that I like. Is we have, I think there's 9 people on the committee, and we're discussing, oh, I really like the turtle with this theme. And then there's basically a general consensus of where you are. We are in a historic village in Centerville. We are on Main Street. It's a nautical theme. We don't want to build like a fortress of something and a wilderness theme when we're so close to the ocean and we have a nautical theme. And then, we start having equipment, what manufacturers, what type of equipment. We all get a little childish, so to speak, to try to pick this stuff out. Richard Ventrone, who's one of the lead architects with Mark Marinaccio's team, very, very great guy. I'd say the major pieces right now that we're looking at is a ship, climbing and slides on it, and people think, oh, the ship. And then you go, there's another a climbing piece of equipment that's really cool, and then other equipment. I mean, Madeline says it best, a challenge is an opportunity. And the biggest challenges with these things is trying to make sure that we're giving the residents what they want, understanding what it is that we need to do as far as ADA compliancy. And then I think a lot of things that people don't think about, you know, like a parking lot. Well, that was brought in because we need to lower the elevation to make it so we have ADA compliant. And then we think about, you know, some of the areas. From my old job, you know, we have a pour-in-place surfacing of about 7,700 square feet for the playground. Well, it's ADA access. DPW doesn't have to come in and put mulch down. We have an access road for maintenance, so if something happens, DPW can get down in there. And then other things that people don't think about. I mean, the world's changed. I have 4 children. I have a nana who's heavily involved. And it's not just about the kids. It's about, or if you're, you know, ADA, I want to go down and take the kids, but I don't want to get in the sun. I'm Irish. You know, having shade structures, having water fill stations, having communicative Bluetooth trash, solar compactors. I mean, it's the whole picture, and that's where I think everybody comes on board and tries to at least get a blueprint of potentially what we want to do, and then we go out and we go, give us what you want. And Richard and I went to the Centerville stroll, holiday stroll. We handed out over 500 flyers, and it was, you know, 100% positive feedback. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. It's finally going to happen. And the kids are, you know, looking at the board like, oh, I really like the ship. And well, you can have the ship because I'm going to climb on this, and I'm going to go on the slide. And it's one of those fun, feel-good projects that I'm happy to be a part of.
Right. So with some of our town projects, there's miscommunication, misinformation, rumors, you know, exponentially grow as the next person hears it. Let's talk a little bit about the surrounding area. We talk about ADA compliance, and this is really, really important to all of our residents, that they have access to our facilities, that it's an ease of use, that they can get in and out of the facility. There's a rec building there, a front parking lot, a small back parking lot, and then there's a field behind there. Let's dispel some of those rumors. We're not getting rid of the field.
Yes, we're not getting rid of the field. We may
Right.
alter the field. Correct. And that would be the word that I would use. And again, this isn't the town saying this is what we're going to do.
Right.
We have 2/3 of this project somewhat aligned where we're bringing it to the public on the 31st. You know, the current size of the field, 180 by about 160. Field study, you know, no. Recreation Commission knows it's wiffle ball. It doesn't meet any codes as far as if we did it. And if we did, then the abutters would go, you guys built a baseball field and my house is 200 feet away from a home plate. What are you guys thinking?
Right.
You know, it's hard because you don't want to give too much information. And I'm one of those people that I'd rather have you give you everything and then you can question me back. We're not holding anything back. I mean, if you go to the site and you look at it, the edge of that parking lot to the field is about 72 feet. It's an 8-foot elevation change. So that parking lot that we're designing in the design phase kind of comes across that. Does it intrude onto the field? No, not currently. It goes right up to the field. So are you going to now build a baseball field with cars right next to it? You know, there's a giant, I think it's a 120-year-old oak tree in left field. Do you want us to cut down that tree so you can have a baseball field, or do we do a multi-purpose field? And that's not Chris Cannella or the Recreation Commission or anybody. That's where we need to educate. And as much as you know, we try to communicate that out. We want to champion. We want people to get drawn in. And then we can have a discussion as far as this is why we did what we did. Right. And this, you know, I just wish that people would understand that there's a way to communicate, and we are open. And I think the value that I bring in my position is I can look at things from both sides. I look at it as a resident. I look at it like I have, you know, family that's age 5 to age 82 that lives in this town. So I try to look at things both ways and come to a common sense and a common, hey, what should we do? Right. So that's it.
Right. And you brought up the last point, which is communication. The public's going to have a chance to look at this, to ask questions. There's going to be staff available January 31st, 4:30 p.m. The hearing room, you're bringing snacks, right?
We better.
You're bringing snacks. Bring your kids, right? Because this is their playground as well as, you know, grandmas and moms and dads. This is the younger generation. We want them at this meeting. We want to hear from these young children that will be using the facility. barring that meeting, the 31st, I'm sure there'll be more. How else can people get in touch with you if they have questions, concerns, ideas? How does that happen, Chris?
You can go to the town's websites. All of us, if you click on the Community Services Department, we're all there. I always say, it's a jokingly, we all in the room have that same email address. It's like the next number in pi, but it's their first name dot their last name at town.barnstable.ma.us.
Right.
And we're always available. Pick up the phone, call us. We want your input, positive and negative, and we don't always make the right decisions. These problems and these abutters and sometimes these things, we can't think of everything, but I can tell you more times than not that once you do communicate effectively and you hear them and they hear you, I mean, I bring up Burgess Park as an example of what the town can do right. You know, you have this dream, we have this limitation. How can we make this together? And like I said, emails, we're very responsive. You know, you guys have been wonderful with helping us out with the town news. Some of these things, we have to do a better job as a town, and I think we're working on that to try to get that communication piece out there. Because it's like some of these things, when I was at the DPW, I didn't know they existed. I'm like, wait a minute, oh, we have this event. My wife would go, how do you know that? Well, I get the e-weekly. She's like, you do? And then I signed her up, and then Dana signed up, and then Papa signed up. So I think we all are making strides, but it hasn't changed. Pick up a phone in worst case scenario. We're not going to ignore you. Right. We want your feedback. We need the help. We don't want to run the town. We want to help the residents get what they want.
Exactly. It all comes down
to
a
vehicle to get it
quality
done.
of life, and you know, again, communication is a two-way street.
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Town Talk.